Hello, my name is Kevin Barrett and welcome to the Love Decanters channel. Today I'm going to talk about how not to BS people about glass and how I try not to BS people about glass. And the way I do it is I use a lot of these. I have a lot of books and I read them, and the thing to look out for that when I'm reading them is changes that mark dates, that show you this technology didn't come in until this point. So even if you don't know who made something or where it was made or anything like that, you can go, this couldn't have been made before this date because of blah blah blah, whatever it is, whatever it was you saw in the book that says, or if someone's putting something with an older date and you're just going, yeah, that didn't come in until this date. So quite often what happens with these technologies is that something will be invented, or a new technique comes in, and that's the start date for it. But what it doesn't mean is that whatever happened before doesn't end immediately, and you'll find that some things will end fairly quickly, but they will drag on in some ways as well. So or that people will actually do a reproduction and recreate an old method. So you do have to be aware that sometimes there'll be mismatches in technologies where you'll see something and you're going, this glass looks too new for what I'm seeing, etc., etc. And you just have to be aware of that yeah, it's looking like this, but then there's this about it. So yeah, I'm going to show you some of the things I found in the books that explain how I make my estimates. So when I look at something on Facebook and says, oh, what's this and when was it made? And I'll go, oh yeah, because so and so and so and so. Quite often I'm doing it based on lots of things I've seen, but quite often I'm then also basing it on what I've read in books, and especially where it's new technologies. I'm always aware when I'm reading through a book and I see something that says, oh, and this happened then, I just go, oh yeah, put that away and I'll remember that for later. So enough of me BSing about how I find stuff. I will show you some of the things in some of these books that I have, so that you can make your own guesstimates. And also it shows you the worth of buying these crap old books, because they do tell you things that modern books don't, and that's helpful, that they have a different perspective on things than some of the newer books. So they will be telling you things about the way things are made, and I'll be going through some of those and also picking out a few of my favorite books as well, just to help people if they're looking for something cheap references that I think are really good. Yeah, you can. I'll point out a few. A lot of my books are inaccessible at the moment, so I'll probably do a part 2 for this at some point. And also, I've been thinking about the things that I know, and I haven't been able to find them all or re-find them because I've got well over 100 books. So so I'll probably re-find some of the stuff later and show it again. Okay, so here we go. We'll go and look at some of the books now. So here's the first book I'm going to show you. It's the Hallmarks of Antique Glass by R. Wilkinson. This is a really good book and really good value if you want to learn a bit about antique tableware, etc. And what's interesting in this book is right in the very beginning, in the introduction, is a bit here, and Mr. Wilkinson here tells you that his late brother evolved commercially for the first time an acid polishing method to replace the old-fashioned method of hand polishing cut glass, and tells you what acids he used, etc., etc. And in actual fact, it ended up killing him, this process, because it wasn't good for him. And it gives you the dates here, 1922 to 27. So in the 20s, they commercialized polishing glass, cut glass, using acids. What that means is that the way cut glass feels changed. So previous to this, cut glass would have like a sharp edge on it, and you could click the edge of the glass with your thumbnail and feel the sharp edges, because what they would do is they would do a rough cut with a wheel and basically grind a groove into the glass. Then they would do a medium cut which would smooth that out, and then they would put a polishing wheel on and polish it out, and that would mean that because they were polishing into the groove and polishing the edges of it, you would have like a sharp edge. But they weren't doing that polishing piece at the end. What they would do is they would just plonk it into acid, rip the surface of the whole glass, and it would smooth not just the groove, but it would smooth the whole surface of the thing. And cut glass then tended to have a slicker, slipperier feel to it that you could rub your hands on. Sometimes it make your fingers squeak, etc. It's so smooth, and yeah. And so if you see something with that, you need to play around and look at different glasses and stuff, and you can see. And sometimes it's so takes so much of the surface off, it feels like pressed glass. So sometimes, yeah, if you see something with that slicker feel, you know it's going to be post 1927 probably. And if someone's putting a like a Victorian day on it, you know that's completely bogus. It's wrong, because it's got that. It's been polished in acid, and yeah, and as a commercial process. So people were using it earlier, but as a commercial process where you're just using standard pieces of tableware, yeah, it's post 1920s. So and that's the be all and end all of it. Here's another book on glassmaking in Ireland. This is a rather scholarly book. It yeah, hasn't got thousands of pictures, and it's not going to tell you. There's different books for that, and what I will do at some point is go through all the Irish books I've got. But this one is really scholarly, and it's telling you about what was going on in the factories, when, where, how, who paid for what, who was working there, the sort of history of the people that were working in the glass industry. And I believe this book because it's from the National Museum of Ireland, so I think it is a scholarly book properly. And within it, it's got some interesting things. And one of the things I picked up, and this is something somewhere here, it talks about the introduction of steam cutting into cork. And I think it says it was introduced installed in steam engine 1813. Okay, and then there's another one here for Penrose, and I think somewhere in here they tell you they introduced steam cutting in the 1820s. Now, previously I'd read somewhere that steam cutting was introduced in Ireland between 1800 and 1810, and I'm believing this book more. So I'm going with the sort of like probably 1810 to 1825 period for introducing steam cutting. And what that means is that prior to mid 1825, you would see Irish glass with shallow cutting that is kind of like not deeply into the glass, because in actual fact, if you're cutting glass just using a foot treadle as your power source, it's really time consuming to cut really deeply into the glass. Also, it's probably, you've not got a wheel that's got a constant speed, so the glass is more at risk when you're cutting, because you've got something that's slowing up, speed down, depending on when you're applying the power and pressing on the glass, etc. So you might like to break it if you try to cut it too much, and it's going to take longer. And so early cut glass is very shallow. It tends to be very shallow, and then once the steam powered stuff gets in, everybody's going for the really deep cuts, cutting away a lot of glass, cutting big broad flat sheets of glass. So it completely changes the nature of cut glass. So you go from these sort of like really soft things where you can hardly see something's cut, to really, yeah, it is definitely the kind of cut glass that you think of as modern cut glass. And in fact, in Ireland, they were doing it really profusely. In fact, I think through the Regency period, a lot of profuse glass cutting, because they could, you know, if you got new technology, why not apply it? Why not go crazy? And that's what they did. So in the Regency period, you see a lot of detailed, heavily cut glass. And although you may see glass with a lot of cutting on it prior to that, it tended to have a softer look to it, shallow cutting. So yeah, it's another one of those things where you see something with really heavy, deep cutting, and you're going, yeah, that won't be pre-1825 if it's Irish, probably earlier if it's English, because in here somewhere it talks about them copying, that the steam engines they were using were copying earlier English ones, so it was probably already introduced in England. And yeah, these books also talk about how poor these glass houses were and how financially on the edge they were. I suspect the English ones weren't quite so financially on the edge, so I suspect they were introducing earlier. I've yet to find that in a book, but yeah, if it's English cut glass, yeah, I would say you could probably go a bit earlier, but for Irish, you're probably talking 18, you know, that 1813, I think, is for cork and onwards. Some of them might have gone earlier than cork, but yeah, those are the kind of time periods you're looking at. So yeah, that's another interesting kind of like point that you can see as a change coming in glass. Okay. Here's another book. I'm not going to pick out a particular item in this book, Manufacture of Glass by L.M. Angus Butterworth. Now, what I will say is this guy really knows about the glass manufacturing industry. And if you want to know about how glass is made, all the technical stuff of glass, look, here he is telling you, yeah, what chemicals are used in glass. He's also, you know, all the old machinery. So I think this is from the 50s, but he's showing you lots of things about how glass is made, and this is hard going in some ways, but you can learn from this. He's telling you all sorts of different techniques about glass, and he's got another book, and there was something I wanted to show you in the other book, but I can't find it. I have this book, which is this Manufacture of Glass, and I have another one which he's got his name on. I trust this guy. There's a red one somewhere, and I'm damned if I can find it. And he had something I wanted to show you, so that will have to be for another video. But yeah, these books are cheap because they're not really showing you lots of different pieces of glass. There are in here some pictures of glass that, because he's showing you what is modern glass of the period, and I've not seen some of it. I haven't seen in other reference books, but there's not a lot of it. So like these glasses from John Walsh Walsh, I've not seen these anywhere else. I've not seen them in real life, so they're probably pretty rare. But yeah, so there's a few pictures like that. But yeah, these are really, if you want to know about how glass is made, yeah, Angus Butterworth, or Mr. Angus Butterworth is the guy. Yeah, these are really good books. So here's a rather expensive book, and somewhere in one of my books, and I will find it again at some point, it tells you about the transition of making jugs from making the handles from the top to the bottom, to the bottom to the top during the 1870s. Now, I can't find that book at the moment, but what I do have, and this is something that went, oh, look, this illustrates it perfectly. So within this book, there's Whitefriars catalogues through the ages. And what you have here, so here we are in the 1830s, and you can see all the handles are made top to bottom. But they're all made that out. But here, there's a nice clear one here, top to bottom. And then you go forward, 1860s, and you can still see everything's top to bottom, everywhere. Everything's top to bottom, okay? And then we go forward a bit more, and here we are in the 1870s. There isn't a page for the 1880s, but what you see here is the transition. So you see this one, top to bottom, top. There you go. This one here, bottom to top. This one here, bottom to top, bottom to top. So you can see this transition being introduced in this page. I have other catalogues that are later in the Victorian period. They're all bottom to top. So when you look at things from 1880s, 1890s, everything is bottom to top. But here you've got this page of transition where you've got some jugs being made top to bottom and others being made bottom to top. And it's really nice. It kind of, you read stuff in books, sometimes you're going, is it bullshit? Because sometimes it is. And then when you see it in a catalogue from the period and you're just going, yeah, it's true. It really, it confirms that, you gives you some conviction in what you say. Now, some people were still doing top to bottom, and in fact, if they're doing reproductions, I think if I can find it in here, because I don't think I marked the page, there is a reproduction in here that's later of a Regency, if I can find it. This is a really good book, by the way, but it is not cheap. I bought it when it first came out, so I paid, but there you go, bottom to top, but this is 1930s. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find this page. Anyway, yeah, so this is a really good book because it's full of catalogues going through the ages, and catalogues are the best. Yeah, I can't find it. But in here there's a later reproduction jug and of a Regency jug, and it's done in the old-fashioned way. And yeah, if you look at some of my other videos, you'll see that I am demonstrating that. I think it's near here. Hang on. Wait a minute. No, I can't find it. I'm giving up on that. Okay, so this is a really good book. It is expensive, it is pricey, but it's not just about Whitefriars, it is about what was going on at the time, because you can see these different styles and different influences in art coming in different periods, which is gives you that knowledge that's outside of the box, outside of just being Whitefriars. You can see what's going on in the glass world. I'm going to show you another old book that I have, and this is one of the first glass reference books I bought. I bought it second-hand. It was printed in 1962 and I would have been 1. So yeah, but this is a really nice little book that you can get cheaply that tells you a lot of stuff and explains it really concisely. So look, here's a page. It's telling you how, you know, different kinds of knops on old 18th century glasses, a bit on development of knops. Yeah, it's just full of really interesting things. It's got some illustrations, but the drawings, little drawings where he's showing you different shapes and styles, and he's telling you things that actually I haven't seen elsewhere. My favourite bits in here near the end. Let's see if I can find that page where he's telling you about these. And yeah, this is the first time I saw this decanter here. You see a load of these, and he tells you this is the royal shape. So you see loads of these in the UK. This is the Nelson shape, I suppose because it's like Nelson's column. These are from the 1830s. Unfortunately, he does stop at the 1830s, which is rather sad. But yeah, this is a lovely little book that tells you things that I've not seen elsewhere, and very concisely. Great book. So thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're going to go out and hunt some of these books down. And also, what I would say is that if you see cheap books on antique glass, buy them. If you haven't got them already, buy them, have a flick through. I always find things I've never seen before, little bits of reference. I always pick up new things. So I highly recommend getting old books. You'll learn things from them no matter how old they are, even if it's just kind of like a historic value of vision of how things, even when you know things are wrong, you go, oh, this is what they thought then. So yeah, thank you for watching this. If you want to see more of this kind of content, please like and subscribe to my channel, because I will be doing more and more videos, I hope, over the years, and I have a lot more books to show you and also a lot more glass. Thank you. Bye.